This is Christopher Smith with a Liberty Minute.
Hello, America, and welcome to this special Friday edition of the Liberty Rant. Today is the eve of a somber memory that is seared and fixed in the minds of many Americans, much like Pearl Harbor was back in 1941, which preceded the onset of America's involvement in World War II to that point. What I'm talking about is the terrorist bombings of the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. When 12 Wahhabi radicalists flew 2 large jumbo jets into the Twin Towers. This is still a fresh memory in the minds of Americans who view the actions of the current president, his administration, and those of his supporters as nothing short of insensitive, disloyal, and perceivably subversive. No matter what you think about Barack Obama and what you feel he's accomplished thus far in his tenure, no one would argue that this man has brought a great deal of divisiveness to the center stage. For a man touted to be such a uniter, he is divided. For a man perceived to be bringing such clarity to the center stage, his rhetoric has been just as caustic as it has been convoluted. And for a president of the United States to have been so lauded to usher in a new age of newfound respect for America globally, he has done nothing but unite the forces against us and weaken our national image around the world. Barack Obama's actions has revealed him to be a hater of America, just like his hardcore Kool-Aid drinking supporters. Over 2,900 people lost their lives unexpectedly, which of course brings to mind scripture. Jesus admonished us not to invest so much into today. Why? Because tomorrow clearly isn't guaranteed us. But you won't hear that from a secularized mainstream media. They won't even go anywhere near the subject. Our hearts and minds should be turned to principles and the clarity they bring. Our hearts need to be turned to God and His providence for guidance as our founders did. In this time of reverence and reflection, now is the time to consider what works and what has clearly failed. Now is the time for clarity and action. The closer we get to November, the more Americans will remember just who we are and just whom we must fight. These slickly wrapped packages of perceived civil liberty have been the Pied Piper misguiding a generation of social and political deviants who would freely trade freedom for security. Didn't Benjamin Franklin warn us against this? Simply put, progressive liberals have got this whole America thing completely bass-ackwards. And when I look at this so-called controversy of the proposed mosque to be built, it's laughable. This is a non-issue to a patriot. America has never been an aggressor nation. Sure, we've had poorly planned foreign policy from time to time, but we have never assailed the sovereignty of another nation, frankly. Islam, on the other hand, has had the better part of 1,200 years as due process for the world to see just what it is Islam claims. And as it pertains to being a so-called religion of peace, granted, I'll give them this. There are a couple of branches of Islam that shun jihad the way that we see it played out by the Wahhabis and the Shia and the occasional Sunni. But America needs to take the lead in confronting the source of Taliban and Al-Qaeda's center of power. And this, of course, would be Hezbollah, Hamas, and of course, Iran. When we do this, we'll be taking the battle to the appropriate agents of dissidence. The cells may be plenty, sure, but the source of funding is far more centralized. We do this, we take out the head, and we will see the investment in what has otherwise been a very well-intentioned but poorly planned and even more undermanned strategy to take on very well-embedded groups. We must forever be wary. We must forever be vigilant. We must never confuse our purpose. We must never buy rhetoric. We must always submit to reality. We must be forever prepared to meet the challenge of threats both foreign and domestic and be prepared to lay down the law swiftly. We must forever pursue the course of liberty wherever she calls us. For in this, my fellow Americans, is preservation. To forget this is death and enslavement. In all of this, we have a fundamental responsibility to oppose evil wherever it presents itself. And that's whether those forces are global or in our own backyard. We must never, ever forget. What do you think? I'm Christopher Smith.